My name is Bolanle Adewale. I'm a teacher. I teach typical children as well as children with special needs, with autism to be precise.
Hush, hush, little babe.
I've been teaching typical children for 18 years and the atypical, as we call them, for 2.5 years. Typical children are the children you'll see and think they're very regular. Everything about them is just what you expect it to be. And atypical children are children who are different. Things about them are different from the typical children. It's never very easy to tell from birth if they're autistic or not. It's something you discover as they go along. But these days, there's earlier discovery. You can actually make the discovery at about 6 months or even earlier, depending on what techniques you use. Now, with Moni specifically, we identified that he might have challenges from about 12 months old. He was 1 at the time because he was talking. At least, he wasn't conversing, but he had words. He had quite a few words until he was about 16 to 17 months old. Then we noticed he was suddenly not talking anymore. We expected his vocabulary to be expanding at that time, but instead we noticed that the words he had previously had completely gone. He just was not saying anything at all anymore. So then we became kind of suspicious, but we still thought, okay, maybe this is just some developmental delay or something else. And because I've been working with children for years, I kind of saw the signs, but kept thinking, because I'm also familiar that some children go through traits that appear to be traits of some kind of delay, and then you find over time that, oh, it really wasn't anything. So I kept hoping that was what his case was and not autism at the time. First, I would say my husband, he has been a really, really mighty pillar because he's been extremely supportive. Sometimes he even does more than I do. So I don't think we could have functioned without one another, quite frankly. So he has been quite understanding. He goes out of his way to find things out. He takes money out on his own. We keep doing things to make him independent. But at the time we first confirmed officially, or well, professionally, that he had autism, we thought it was something that would last a short period. We thought, okay, if we enrolled him at a school and gave him intensive intervention at the time, he would overcome it, and within 6 months we'll be back to normal, or things will be okay. So we enrolled him at a school in the United States at the time. He started attending, and we stayed back with him for a period about 6 months, thinking that would, but after 6 months it dawned on us, we actually realized that there was no end in sight at the time, and we felt, okay, we're not going to continue living in the States because that's not home. And then we came back to Nigeria and started to deal with it in our own way. We had him go to different centers. At the time, we also used a center in South Africa. We'll go there, take him there, but we needed something that was more consistent, whereby he's home and everybody needed to be working with him. So what we have done at this point in time is, in addition to him attending a Montessori school, he actually goes to the learning place, because we know that the Montessori system is one that individualizes the children's work, and because this is the same way to work with children with autism or atypical children, we found the Montessori system extremely beneficial to Moni. He goes to the learning place where we have mixed age group of children. There are children he's now currently in a classroom designed for children aged 6 to 9. So he has 6-year-olds in his class, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds. So he doesn't quite stand out, and he's learning at the same time. That's the beauty of it. And in addition to that, we set up a center for children with autism and other related developmental disorders. And we have found the center is now 2 years old, TLP Center, that's what it's called. And at the center, in our short years, we've had tremendous testimonies. We've had people who have come not speaking, little children that would start with us not talking, and after about a period, you just find that, okay, there's the first word and then the next word comes. And we have found that over the couple of years, it's actually been amazing, the kind of outcomes that we've had. And we're very encouraged and we're moving on with that. The Learning Place is a Montessori school for children aged 1 to 12 years. And it's been in existence since 2004. We've had many children come through us, and we use the Montessori philosophy. Montessori philosophy is just a very practical approach to teaching. We teach them with concrete objects as opposed to abstract, and we do a lot of individualized work with them. We have mixed age group, which we call vertical grouping. We mix them all together, and they interact with one another as though they were in a natural environment. So that's basically what the Learning Place is. And also over the years, we've had children who have been through us. What we find with such children is that they're highly interactive. They ask a lot of questions. They're analytical. They're able to solve problems without you intervening. They're just able to think for themselves. That's the beauty and the greatest gift that Montessori method offers the children. Well, the journey with Moni has been very revealing. That's the first thing I'll say, because before we discovered Moni had autism, even though I had been working with children for about 10 years, we never really paid attention to children with, I was not in this country at the time, but where I worked in the USA at the time, and the classrooms I had, I never even knew there was anything called autism, because they were just typical children, happy-go-lucky, everything went well, smoothly. So for us, it wasn't something that we actually considered. I didn't consider it as a teacher at the time. But with Moni, he's revealed a lot. He's helped me see a different way to work with children. Now I'm more equipped. I was equipped to work with typical children only for so many years. But now I'm now able to work with other children. I'm now an ABA behavior analyst, a certified one. I have gone out of my way to find out how to work with them. And what has happened with Moni typically is, with most of the children that are on the spectrum, the most important thing is identifying their reinforcers. You find out what they respond to, what you need to give them to make them do things. They work for something. You give them praise if that's what it takes. You give them edibles if they like edibles. You find something, it can be a little toy, it can be a tickle, it can be social reinforcement like a high five, thumbs up, whatever you find works for them. And you identify what works for each child. Once you know what that is, you get the child to respond to you based on the reinforcers. You tell the child, okay, do this for me. After you've done this, you get this. And with Moni, what we have is, we have a daily schedule for him. It's written down. He has a schedule board. And he puts the board together himself every morning. He sticks the different activity he does on the board. And as he finishes an activity, he takes it off. So he can actually see how his day would unfold by himself. It's like us too. Imagine if you woke up in the morning not knowing where you're headed for that day. You have no plan as to what to do. You have no to-do list, and then you just head out. I'm not sure how well you'll function for that day. So the same thing with them. You help them plan their day by giving a board. With Moni, he reads. So we do, his schedule board is based on words. But for children that cannot read, you can actually make it pictures. Lots of pictures that relate to what activities they're going to do. You have the pictures there. and you stick the pictures on the board one after the other. The board can have about 12 different things, and as he finishes the first, he takes it off, puts it in a pocket at the back, takes off the second activity, and in between you put reinforcers. He will select his reinforcers also in the morning. There's a file of reinforcers. He picks the ones he wants, trampoline for 5 minutes, or playing basketball, or just going for a walk, because also it's very important that you keep their activities short. The shorter you keep the activities, the more success you get. If you keep them too long, you're going to be carrying out an exercise in futility, because after a while he gets very tired, he's not interested, the attention span is short, and he's just not going to cooperate with you. So we know that we keep the activities short, and also we break down his tasks. There's something called task analysis. We break down each and every single task that he's going to do, like toothbrushing, for instance. When he was learning how to brush his teeth, we broke it down. He first had to unscrew the toothpaste, rinse the toothbrush, get the toothbrush from the cup, put the toothpaste on, brush his teeth. Everything was in steps. We had about 11 steps for brushing his teeth and all those types of things. So everything is really broken down. You have to bring it to his level and help him see it that way. Otherwise, he's just doing it. But when it's broken down, it's easier for him to grasp, and the steps are simple. One last thing. Another thing that helps us is we have been able to identify things in the environment. We know for a fact that children react, or people, every human being reacts. A behavior that you get from an individual is based on the stimulus in the environment. The environment and behavior is very related. If you display a behavior now, it's because of what you're feeling within your environment. So we've identified that, and what we always look for are the stimuli that make the children react in a certain way. So a child suddenly starts going, first thing you're doing is you're looking around. What is triggering this? And if you know what it is, if you know the child will immediately remove that thing. The minute you take it off, that stops. So it's about you also being sensitive to their needs, being sensitive to their environment, and being able to work with them based on what you identify to trigger their behavior. Sit down and start doing it without any problem. Or you won't get that iPad. You still want the iPad, right? iPad. You'll get it, but you need to sit down. Sit. Over here. No. Moni, over. He will sit here, and you sit there. It's very well, if I say it's easy, some people may just flog me for saying it's easy, because for them it may not be easy. But I think things can be what you want them to be. It depends on the effort you put in. As parents of children with autism, what they need from us mostly is our time. If you have the time to make out for them, be you poor, be you rich, I don't think there's any hard and fast rule the rich, when you say people are rich or can afford it, maybe what you mean to say is that they don't do it themselves. They pay for the services, and they get the services from professionals. However, there are people who do not have the money to be able to pay the professionals and have the professionals work with their children. For such people, they can be trained. So if you're trained, it can just even be something like you holding your child. The way you hold your child and massage him. I scratch Moni's arms a lot. He wants me to, and then he tells me, scratch my left arm, scratch my right arm, and I'm scratching. I just keep scratching, because they also have sensory needs. Those are types of things that you can do with them to calm them down, to soothe them. So with a parent who has a child who's running all over the place, you can just pull your child, give your child a little gentle squeeze, and stroke, or get a brush and do a gentle body brushing or whatever. So really and truly, if people are trained to work with their children, there's certainly skills that you use, but I don't think it's impossible for any parent to learn the skills. But the first thing I would even say is, even if you don't have the skills, love them, be patient with them, have time for them, create time for them. When you do that, if they know that you have their time and you're relating with them, it makes a world of a difference. That way they're able to respond to you better, and they'll even respond to you better than they'll respond to the people you pay sometimes. It depends on the relationship you have with them. But part of what we plan to do at the center is go to the grassroots. We plan to take training to the grassroots to look for mothers and babies, people who ordinarily would not be able to afford services. Go there and speak to them in our indigenous languages. Well, we've spoken to a Yoruba lady who's going to take us to some parts of Lagos, where we'll go there, and in Yoruba we're communicating with them. We'll do it in Igbo as well and find out who can. We haven't found anybody for Igbo. This is the center now. TLP Center is going out to do that. But the Yoruba interaction with the parents, we're actually planning this within the next couple of months. We're going to go out to the grassroots and work with parents that are indigent and still show them ways that they can work with their children. We'll just create a relationship with them whereby we can actually help them see that they can work with their children without necessarily getting, having to pay through their nose to do that.
Right. Which continent is this?
South America.
Good. Do you want to spin it this time?
Yes, spin.
Which continent is this?
Africa.
Good. You can spin again.
Mani is a very talented young man. He's a very smart boy and he's a very free person. He's not afraid to talk with anybody or do anything with anybody. He can play piano. He can do different things. He's very free. He can talk to anybody or do anything with anyone and not be scared. That's something I like about him. So whenever he doesn't really seem to have many problems because of how free he is. Sometimes he doesn't really listen. Sometimes he throws tantrums, different things that people need to get used to. Sometimes you take away his things and you'll see a difference because he'll want his thing back. So then he'll start doing what you want to get his thing. And there's sometimes when he's not a very hard person to get to. He understands when you're trying to tell him something. So it makes things a lot easier. So if you tell him something and he refuses, there's always a way, no matter what, there's always a way to get to him and tell him what to do. We have a lot of games we like to play. We jump on the trampoline, we play basketball, we swim, and we play the iPad together. Well, sometimes. They've learned to live with him because there's really nothing wrong with him. He just has autism and he can overcome it.
First, we don't call them autistic children. They're children living with autism. It's just a trait they have. Now, for people who have children living with autism, it's not a death sentence. It's also not a race. It can be a marathon, which means that you can be dealing with this for a great deal of time. But through it all, of the recovery in the physical, at the time you expect to see it, but it's very important that you remember that God's time is not our time. His ways are not our ways. So he chooses his own time. But what you just need to know is that there is always a possibility for recovery, and you just have to keep your eye on the ball and keep focusing, keep doing what you're doing, keep doing what you know how, keep working, keep doing it, but don't expect an instant recovery. Because some of us make that mistake. When you expect the instant recovery and you don't see it, you keep switching from one therapist to the other. That's another thing that you should be wary of. Don't keep switching from one therapist to the other. Find a therapist that works for you and stick with that person. Stick with a method that works for you. Don't think because it hasn't worked in 6 months, you're going to look for the next one. No, it doesn't always come immediately, but you find that the results are there. So just hang in there and know that it's not a death sentence. Don't change your lifestyle. Don't look all miserable and grog, very untidy because you have a child with autism. Be bright, be hopeful, and God will always meet us at the point of our needs.
1, 2, 1, go.